This is a Socialist News and Views special interview.
I'm Nick Schillingford coming to you from the Urban Cabin Studios in South Minneapolis with this special interview.
At least we could start with her.
Sure, no, yeah, that would be nice. Puppies are always good.
All right. And then the big dog, the senior dog is too big to show off.
What's the puppy's name?
Her name's Delia.
Aw, she's sweet. She's cute. So did you just get her then recently, I assume?
Like mid-August.
Oh, okay. So you've been her for a little while now. Well, that's nice.
She's been a campaign little pup here. She came home on a Wednesday, and on that Sunday we went to Cedar Fest, and
nice.
She got socialized. She's been socialized so much, so
that she loves everybody now. Yeah,
pretty much. Yeah,
you can never go wrong with a dog on a campaign. You know, I don't think you can go wrong with that. That's a good draw.
Yeah, but she's going down to her bed. Okay,
oh, that's nice.
Yeah, and hard to focus with a puppy in your lap.
No, that's true. You really can't. And why would you want to?
Right. I've done a few meditations.
The only thing you need to focus on is the puppy if there's a puppy in your lap.
That is correct.
So on Socialist News and Views, we let folks introduce themselves. Do you want to just tell our audience who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Dan Engelhart. My pronouns are he, him, his, and they's. Quite fine. I am running for Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board District 1 Commissioner. I am also a longtime organizer. I started out in 2001 around environmental issues. Found myself not thinking I'd ever do anything as direct on electoral politics, but was convinced that working on the late Senator Wellstone's campaign made sense at the time, so I did that. That kind of got me as connected as I am, or got my start as connected as I am to local politics here. And then from there, people were encouraging me, including Wellstone himself, and so many different people to try union organizing. And I mean, just from the very first conversation I had, I was like, oh, this is the kind of organizing I need to do.
Right.
And it's, just the power, the pure power analysis and the conversations about power just resonate so well. So I've been doing that, professionally pretty much ever since, from organizing all over the country with SEIU, starting out with nursing home workers in New Jersey and janitors in New York with 32BJ, SEIU 32BJ, and then all over the place. Minnesota nurses here, some big deal contracts when Sanford Health was coming into Minnesota, for example, leading Duluth's first ever coordinated contract campaign with both health systems. And then I've been at MAPE for the last nearly 14 years, which, is a unique union. As far as I know, it's the largest fully independent union on the planet. It's also, up until recently, it's just only state employees, but I was a co-lead organizer on McAllister, so we just organized
Nice.
the first private sector unit. And it's also, MAPE has afforded me enough free time to be involved in community. So I've been involved, unpaid for a long time on really, pretty hyper local issues like the Park Board connection is. I was on a board called the Above the Falls Community Advisory Committee, which was to implement, that body sort of fell apart, but is to implement the Above the Falls and River First plan. And then a lot of focus became on northern metals and the lead and the other pollution, and just the literal noise and eyesore,
Right.
to have 3-4 stories of scrap metal right on the river there. So fighting that became a big focus, just part of the AVCAC work, and try to take those things that are called CACs, Community Advisory Committee, and that's a standing one, or was.
Right.
Fell apart, like I said. A lot of times they're like for like the Uptown Mall, which I'm sure we'll talk about. It's just like get input on the specific thing and then the CAC goes away. But that was intended to be in perpetuity, basically, because there's so much to do to implement the Above the Falls and River First plan. Um, but anyway, I tried to approach that like an organizer, not like the only people that discuss this are the people on the CAC itself, and
Right. Do you want
uh,
to, what is that acronym?
uh, Above the Falls Community Advisory Committee.
Okay. Community
So,
Advisory Committee. Okay. I just want to make sure that we get that out there for
yeah, yeah,
everybody.
yeah. The city and the park board do these CACs for various projects
Sure.
typically. So it's like the assemble the group of people that are going to be the Community Advisory Committee, and then once the thing's got its input and it's going forward, that the CAC dissolves is the typical process. But
Sure.
AvCAC, it was, supposed to be full implementation of the Above the Falls and River First plan. So yeah. Anyway,
Well,
I mean,
well, yeah, like I
that's
mean,
what
you're running for park board in District 1, as you said, and you've been involved in stuff for a long time, labor organizing, community organizing work. And I'm not sure, have you run for office before, or why did you decide to run for office now, and what's your vision?
yeah. Well,
Why now?
if yeah, exactly. I mean, I'll get to the why now, but it's kind of funny to say, have I have I run before? I mean, I don't know if you can see my shirt, land back,
Yeah,
Palestine. Um, I was on the Free Palestine Coalition. I guess I kind of still am, but I chose this lane of running for office, which is a little different. But
sure.
um, I was I was nominated from the floor of the state convention in 2024 against Amy Klobuchar, specifically to take her on the unconditional arming and funding of um, the genocide Israeli is committing with our bombs and money. So I guess that's a run for office. It lasted, 36 hours or less. I don't know.
Sure.
I had union printed lit, and if that would have happened on Saturday morning when it was supposed to, I'm pretty sure we would have met the threshold and I would have at least been able to do what was intended to do. But it did kind of flip the script on the 2024 DFL state convention from there because people really took notice and the Treaty People Caucus like was able to figure out how to get the mic for like 8 minutes or something like that and gave a really
Right.
powerful speech. So and I don't think that would have happened without the kind of inspiration seeing what happened
Right.
with me. So no, not my first time running, but my first time running seriously, or like entirely seriously. But I would have beat Royce White, okay?
Yeah, yeah,
Anyway,
exactly.
and I would have been I would have been way better on most issues than our
I,
senior senator. But
I agree.
yeah. Why now? I mean, yeah, I just feel like there's a real need for strong leaders at every level of government right now. As referenced earlier by my experience with the AvCAC, the Above the Falls Community Advisory Committee, I mean, I was heavily involved with the park board there because
Mm,
the River First plan, Above the Falls plan, was effectively to make both sides of the river on the north side, or as we call it, but really the west side and the east side, the west and east banks above the Plymouth Bridge, accessible and maintained by the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board. So it's heavy park board involvement. So I'm very familiar with the body.
Do you
It's
want to
also
just
part
quick? Do you want to give do, do you want to give kind of the area of District 1, just so
Oh,
that
sure.
everybody
So
knows what we're
just
talking about?
yep. Yeah, appreciate that. District 1 is entirely on the east side of the river in Minneapolis.
Okay.
So it's not the entire east side anymore because there's like 2.5 precincts that are in Marcy Homes. Supposedly somebody decided that with the new maps that both sides of the Stone Arch Bridge should have the same commissioner.
Mm,
So that will hopefully be Jason Garcia in District 4. So District 1 goes from northeast Minneapolis, like Columbia Park, Waite Park being the kind of the furthest northern neighborhoods in Northeast, all the way down to Prospect Park,
oh, sure. Okay.
with just a couple precincts in Marcy Homes right around the Stone Arch Bridge that aren't in it. So we have the U of M, or the bulk of the U of M, East Bank in the district, Prospect Park, Southeast Como, where we'll be knocking today,
Nice.
which has heavy disparities, and then all the and other Southeast neighborhoods, and all of Northeast, and so it spans Ward 1, Ward 2, Ward 3.
Okay.
Um, but then 2 and 3 are on both sides of the river, whereas Ward 1 is on one side. So
Sure.
yeah.
Nice. Sorry,
Yeah.
you can keep going if there's anything else you want to share about your
Yeah, I mean,
vision, about your
the
issues.
strong leaders at every level of government, and I saw, I mean, the Uptown Mall, which I imagine we'll be talking about more, but that decision and a MinPost article about it, and kind of talking about how messed up the park board is, and it got a it got a bunch of people reaching out to me saying, "Hey, would you run now when
Right.
similar choir to other the past in terms of people saying, would you run for park board? It seems like a good fit for you." And I was like, well, I don't know. It's at the end of April. It seems a little late.
Right.
And I started thinking about it more, and I saw the Uptown Mall, and then I mean, I knew about the elimination of funding for youth programming positions, three people's jobs in our youth being pushed aside in
Right.
favor of specified pavement improvement. I saw the park board having a conversation about a cannabis policy and possibly ordinance when we saw death camps and CCOT
Right.
uh, popping off at the same week. I thought that was wildly reckless and irresponsible and going to cause harm. Um, so and then the 22-day long strike, of course, last summer was really what um, started me thinking about it in a way that I never had before because I've been a long time union organizer, business agent, negotiator, and there was just that was an absolute failure of the Board of Commissioners, of the park board, and we had commissioners saying 21 days into the strike that they didn't know enough about the contract. Well, with me on the board, there isn't a they'll say I've refused to listen to Dan. They can say that. I've
Sure.
refused to meet with them. I've refused to talk to them, but they can't say I don't know enough about the contract.
Right.
And I will skewer them if they do such a thing. And the incumbent, Billy Menz, I reached out to him, after going down on the 4th of July and being a part of the march and the strike and, lifetime memory, singing Solidarity Forever with Ilhan, but I could certainly skip that. Like I didn't need that. And then it went on for 22 days, and I texted the incumbent Billy saying, "What are you doing here?" And he said, "I'm trying to figure it out." And I said, "I'm ready to explain it to you at any point." And he said,
Right.
"Oh, you're biased." And I'm like, "What? You're supposed to be too. Like you got to support the workers." And so that's, kind of going backward a bit is what really shook me. At that time, I was trying to get through the experience I was about to have with uncommitted and the DNC and every bit of energy I had um outside of kind of making sure I did what I needed to do with my job at MAPE, and everything else was trying to stop the unconditional arming and funding of genocide with our
Right.
money. So yeah.
Yeah, you kind of mentioned a little bit. You've got a lot of great endorsements from political leaders and from labor. You mentioned Elhan Omar. Do you want to highlight a few of the big ones or the recent ones? And just for full disclosure, this podcast endorsed a number of folks, including yourself. Whether or
Yeah.
not anybody saw it, but just for full disclosure, the who are some of the big ones or some of the recent ones that you guys have secured for
Yeah,
endorsement?
there's a lot.
There is a lot of
It
good
would
ones.
take forever to go through them all. I mean, I'm proud of the DFL caucus endorsements I have. The most recent one is the Disability Caucus. That's very important when we think about our parks and programming being in community
Absolutely.
with the Disability Caucus. Um, but I mean, I've Stonewall was the first community caucus. The senior caucus pulled some sort of big move to endorse me, and then because I was able to get DFL endorsed and stay DFL endorsed, their kind of compromise tactic only worked for me. So they've endorsed some other people that didn't get DFL endorsed. Um, Elliot Paynes is not more recent. It was the one I wanted to lead with, and that's my council member, and that's our council president, and I'm very proud of that one. But I have all of SD60, all of SD62, County Commissioner Angela Conley, Greta Callahan from the school board in terms of electeds, labor, just across the board, union endorsements. Um, so
You got my local council person, Aureen Chowdhury,
oh
endorsement.
yeah, Oreen,
Yep.
yep, and Chaudhry, Jason Chavez.
Yep.
And there's a lot that I just haven't even asked because,
Sure.
and a lot that I didn't have to ask, honestly. It's kind of ridiculous to look at my lit. It's like this is a park board
Right.
campaign and so many endorsements. Yeah. So it feels good for sure.
That's good.
And like there's some I haven't asked, like I know would endorse, but they're in tighter races, so I can be a bit of a lightning rod, I think. So,
No, I get it. And yeah, and for this show, you're not the only person running that we've reached out to connect with or to do an interview with. But of course, as you know, the whole running for office is a really busy process, and you kind of have to pick and choose what you're going to do. And so, everybody else has either gotten too busy at different times, or for whatever reason, it hasn't worked out. So, but great that you're able to come and talk about this. Yeah. Do you want to talk about some more of um, the issues? I feel like, I don't know. Personally, I feel like Minneapolis should be like a beacon for the rest of the country on like parks and all this stuff, and we should be like that, just showing that stuff off, because we have great parks, and like you said, I think we have a lot of potential to make them a lot better. But we're starting in a good spot to we have something great that we can improve on. What are the big issues that you're going to be focused on when you're elected?
yeah. And it is a win. I mean, I think we got this, but we're working as hard and as smart as we
Keep it
can
up.
for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, love that question. I mean, primarily, like, I'm being very clear, the first thing out of the gate is to start a labor committee with workers on it and chair that committee. And we're going to have commissioners engaging in, all things labor relations, both organized in a union and non-union segments of the workforce. Um, that is my number one priority, my number one focus on to start and chair that committee with workers on it to totally flip the script. What's absurd on that is that like Meg Forney on Thursday night literally parroted management's talking points saying like you can't do that, it's illegal in state law. Like who are you talking to? Like
Right.
I've worked for Mate for 14 years. Like that's just because she's been told that, so she chooses to believe it. And in the past, it's not unique to the park board, um, but in the past, uh, and including in this last bargain, because Tom Olson has told me, and he is really, I think it's important, and I hope that he does kind of tell his story more publicly about how much he's learned from experiencing that strike, and if he knew now what he knew then, or knew then what he knew now,
Right.
and how excited he is that I'm running to have me on the board and to help flip that. Like he really wants to right that wrong, and not just about like one strike, but what can we set up as durable systems going forward? So yeah, labor relations and that committee are my primary focus. The park board is unique, and it is a key part of our identity and quality of life here in Minneapolis. Absolutely. And people are all kind of wondering what you can do and all this and local. This you cannot get more local than your local park or your local
Exactly.
program that's through your park. Truly, you cannot. I mean, the promise of the Minneapolis Park and Recreation System is a park within 6 blocks of your house. That's
Right.
not being met for our neighbors in Southeast Como, so we're doing a door knock today, October 25th, at 12:30 with Elliot Payne and Robin Walmsley to highlight the inequities in green space in the Como area of Minneapolis, Southeast. But anyway, labor first and foremost, yes. Um, just making sure in general that I mean, my view is, you could call me various things, I suppose, leftist for sure. But collective liberation is the only way forward. And the wealthy have these park board races it doesn't pay very well as a commissioner. It's kind of, that's like, why would anyone want to do this? You have to put in a ton of time and energy into the campaign, typically, especially if you're opposed at all
Hmm.
and fundraise and do all the things a normal campaign has to do. So who in their right mind would do it? But it's important, I think, to have a unique autonomous governing body to maintain a quarter of the city's land, the number one in terms of raw number of youth, employer of youth in our city, but they don't come back from year to year. And there's a reason for that. And I think it's
Right.
the larger labor relations problem. So labor, first and foremost, Absolutely, that is makes sense for me to focus, but that also kind of transitions over into public safety. So, a core union values quality work. The park board employs 34 police, including the first responders to the Cup Foods call in May of 2020 with George
Mm,
Floyd. Um, we've seen some terrible examples of excessive force or explicit bias in the park police as well. So,
hmm.
quality work, it's on management to hold them accountable. I think we can have a bit of an incubator within the Minneapolis Park Police for modeling what needs to happen within MPD and stop blaming collective bargaining, just cause, and arbitration for management's unwillingness to manage. Any
Right,
union person knows that that's an outright lie that Jacob Fry and mayors before him have said, we can't do anything to hold the police accountable because of, the union. I refuse to call the Police Federation a union, but that's what it often does get called. That's just a lie. And by
right,
saying that you can't manage within just cause, collective bargaining, and arbitration, it's also saying that you won't.
right,
And that has to stop. So there, and then like, you know, uh, park police, there are park police, there are 34 currently employed, but there's a lot more that goes into safety. It's like,
right,
can people feel welcoming and belonging, and can we have more community gardens so people are there and present and feeling like it's their park, and maybe they'll have a conversation with someone who seems to be having a particularly bad day and try to help them versus like criminalize them and harass them. um Different kinds of programming that are really going to activate, that's a word that gets used a lot, activate the park. I'm kind of like, okay. But like just at Awanmi Falling Waters Festival on whatever day it was, um, there's folks that want to, our native relatives that have been working to promote lacrosse, both pre and post in modern, pre-colonial and modern. Like that seems like it was a
sure,
great success and people were really interested in it down there. But there's some, kind of just cutting through the barriers to implement
right,
meaningful programming that people really want to do instead of just like, well, this is what we've done for 30 years or 50 or 70,
right,
and we're going to just keep going. So the programming is important. And then I guess lastly, like on the environment, um, we have to be an active partner in the state's goals to reduce vehicle miles traveled. And what is the rhetoric around the park board right now is that, oh, we need $250,000 for a study, and we don't have $250,000 for a study. And until we have to, that it's this chicken or the egg thing with the
right,
study. I think that's absurd. Like, I don't think we need a study to know that if we can actually implement, um, I don't like the word closure, but opening some parkway spaces, particularly on West River Parkway, between roughly so-called Gold Medal Park and North Fourth, which was all set to go forward. If we can open that to pedestrian and bike traffic frequently enough, and that would mean, yes, closed to cars, but not all
right,
cars. They can get into their curb cuts if they live there and whatever. Um, to enough that Google Maps or Apple Maps wouldn't be routing people there is like, this is the way you should go,
right,
would I think be a big start to reducing vehicle miles traveled. And we don't need a study to know that that would be reality.
right,
So there's always reasons to not do something because people don't have the political will or the political courage. And I want to cut through that crap. I just recently learned um, from there's some great folks working on our natural areas. So like the Theodore Wirth Park around Eloise Butler Wildflower Garden, which I encourage everyone to go. I mean, you're not going to
yeah,
see many flowers this
not
time of
now,
year.
yeah,
Go in the spring. It's wonderful. Uh, but there might be a fin, which if you don't know what a fin is, it's like a very unique ecosystem that's sort of like a higher elevated wetland.
nice,
Uh, and it's possible that there's a fin there, which is like really cool, and not hardly anybody knows about that. And I actually represent the DNR with my job at MAPE, and the DNR's meet and confer chair is like the fin person for the state. So
sure,
I mean, I'm definitely pumped up
nice,
on fins. And then there's peat bogs, and presumably the water supply has been hampered by the long ago construction of 394, Highway 394, and they're drying up.
right,
And when peat bogs are a tremendous carbon sink, but obviously when they actively just fully die and degrade, then they release that carbon. And there's plenty of scientists that are saying the biggest thing the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board could do to combat climate change is to really deal with this issue of these peat bogs dying out in Theodore Wirth Park. So addressing those things head on. And I think no matter what it is, so I have some clear ideas and plans, and one that I'm just going to be solely focused on at the outset is the labor committee. But no matter what it is, I'm going to approach it like an organizer. And so there are people out there working on all these issues.
Right.
And some of them might be one guy. There's one guy that will talk to anybody that will listen to him about light pollution. And you know
Right.
what? I'm 100% with you on the issue, guy, but you're going to need to find a core group of people that are
Yep.
committed to do this across the city to move the other commissioners, and I'll help you figure that out.
Yep.
That sort of thing. Because right now it's one guy.
And that's how
Um,
things get done, as you're
yep,
highlighting. Yep. And that's
yep,
important. We need people in there that know that stuff. And like you said about the labor, it's like, I don't, people that aren't super supportive of labor, I don't get it. It's like, you know, this gives you like, some interest and control over your working environment. And if you want to have like successful parks, like you said, where people are friendly and helpful and are, you want those people to feel like they have a stake in what's going on and they actually have some level of voice in the process. That's going to make for people that are a lot more welcoming and cooperative and helpful. If you're stressed out about all the stuff that's going on and you're getting attacked from every side, and you're not making decent wages and they're not making this something that can be a career for you, then that's really just creating a situation where you have park employees that aren't able to focus on all the important things that they need to be focusing on. And then, like you said, youth programming. Lots of people remember like way more youth programming, like back in the day and stuff like that, and that's been getting eroded away and eroded away. Do you want to say anything else or say anything else about the Uptown Mall or anything else? I
yeah,
don't
well,
have other
yeah,
specific questions, but
sure. I mean, and yeah, I mean, the whole like, if you can't lead with workers and, figure it out, like management has a responsibility, like I said earlier, to hold people accountable to that core union value of
right.
quality work. Management manages the union, make sure it's done fairly and uniformly across the board. Um, but it's wild. My opponent, whose name happens to also be Dan, so let's emphasize Engelhart,
Okay.
um, said tremendously anti-union, anti-worker things at the Parks and Power Forum a couple Thursdays ago. I was blown away.
Right.
I would say he said what the quiet parts out loud, that this, and
Right.
now they've announced as of yesterday a whole slate aligning with the mayor. And these are the conservative people that play in the Democratic Party, the so-called DFL here in Minneapolis. And if they were anywhere else, I think they would probably be Republicans, or they'd be like your typical Democratic liberal. So he said horrible anti-worker, anti-union things, blaming the union leadership for the strike and saying, how would you go and take on the park board on the 4th of July, this peak season premiere day and all. I mean, it was just
Right.
bonkers. Um, the folks that are advocating for those natural areas are literally advocating for staff,
Right.
dedicated full-time equivalent staff to work on these natural areas. We have the park board employs gardeners that are laid off. They just got laid off in this last week, and they're not going to be going back to work until March, and that's hard on them. So we see turnover as a result,
Right.
but also it doesn't allow them to. Sure, like I just said, don't go to the wildflower garden now. You won't see any flowers. Like
Right.
seasons are real, but it doesn't mean that there's not work to be done. I mean,
Oh yeah.
there's equipment maintenance. There's maybe it's reducing the FTE from 1.0 to 0.75 or even zero point 0.5, but like keep them employed, keep them on health insurance, most
Right.
importantly. Haven't figured that out in this country. And and you know, what can they be doing in the colder winter months? Programming about having meetings with people to get them to do volunteer efforts. They the folks that are kind of loosely organized around Eloise Butler there have figured out a system to remove buckthorn and keep it gone. That I've
Nice.
never seen anything quite like it. It's really impressive, but it requires lots of volunteer time. And there
Right.
are various organizations that will do that, but you have to engage them throughout the year and set these things up and logistics. So that's an example. We see greenwashing schemes like carbon offset credit for Excel and Centerpoint get to keep polluting away, claiming they're planting trees, which there aren't any trees being planted,
Right.
when what we really need is enough arborists to maintain the trees that are actually removing carbon currently because they're
Right.
mature and healthy, but possibly not healthy and need to be maintained. Even when a storm comes and takes out a branch, there's different things that
Right.
need to be done to maintain that tree, and there's just not enough staff. There's an 8-year backlog with arborists.
Right.
We can't be proud of the number one park system and expect to have the number one park system with this severe labor relations problem. So there's a lot to work on. I think it is important that we do maintain this autonomous body because if it got rolled into City Hall and the mayor, I think we would know, we'd move
That
from
would be
having a
bad.
quarter of the city's land to, 20%, 15%, and,
Right.
it's just wouldn't be the same. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, there's like so many new planting methods out there, and people trying new things. I mean, there'd be so much opportunity to experiment with different things in different areas with all that, land that you have to see what things might work and what things might not work. Um, I mean, but yeah, like you said, you just got to do it. You got to do some of the stuff, and it's like, um, like you said, you got to know that like there's some movement building that needs to happen. There's some, like you said, getting some other stakeholders involved. um and then there's bringing some pressure to bear in places if the leaders aren't really going along with what the community wants. But it's just funny to me, like, yeah, especially the anti-union stuff. It's like they call out the workers like they're some alien force or something that dropped out of the sky. It's like these are our neighbors, or if not our immediate neighbors, our neighbors in another, just outside the city or whatever. They're a part of our community. Like the workers are not, some some separate thing from running the parks that is just like, trying to I don't know, whatever, concoct some evil plan or something, whatever the current park board leadership sometimes can frame it like. Um, but yeah, I think it's there's a lot of opportunities, and there's plenty of things to do in the winter too, and there's plenty of infrastructure that could be built in parks and things like that. There's, like you said, there's plenty of other things, and reaching out to the community, reaching out to the wider community to find those other people, because there's lots of people in the community, like you said, doing lots of work for free. There's lots of volunteers out there already like super motivated on all this stuff. So, finding a way to harness some of that knowledge and experience and creativity and all that stuff. I think this is exactly the kind of stuff that needs to be happening. So I'm glad to hear that's the kind of vision that you have here. Is there anything else that you want to share before you go? I know like I said, you mentioned the Uptown Mall. I don't know if there was anything else you wanted to say on
Oh,
that, but I
yeah,
really
sure.
appreciate
Yeah, I mean, the Uptown Mall, so for folks that aren't super familiar, it's not a mall. I mean, not the kind of mall you think of when you think of a mall.
right.
It's effectively from Hennepin to so-called Lake of the Isles, just kind of a grassy path with,
Right.
curbs and parking on either side. And there was a intentional CAC, so Community Advisory Committee,
Right.
including it had like State Representative Katie Jones on it, and who represents that area as a state rep. And there was a real intentionality to recruit renters and diversity, people of color, other diverse backgrounds and identities,
Sure.
and they did. I mean, I think there was. I can't like I don't live in Uptown. I live
Know all the
in the
details.
neighborhood
Sure.
of Northeast Minneapolis, but I wasn't at a single CAC meeting for that. But I think generally people feel good about the intentional recruitment of the composition of the CAC, the Community Advisory Committee. And then Elizabeth Schaefer, who's running for city council, and everyone should try to help out Katie Cashman because it's a pivotal seat.
Okay.
Um, she's not positioning herself anywhere near as left as,
Right.
Nick and I, but she'll do good things on the council. And Elizabeth Schaefer is basically a right-wing Republican. I mean, just like embroiled in money and has decided to play in the city politics similar. Well,
There's a
anyway,
lot of there's a lot of those that they trotted out. It seems like they came up with
there is a
people,
lot.
and if they didn't have a good one, they just grabbed somebody and they're like, you're gonna be the
Yeah.
fry guy now."
We have Shelley Medore, who was the second congressional district's like DFL endorsed congressperson, but like, we see how progressive the second is when it gets a DFL, or Angie Craig is not progressive, and neither is Shelley Medore, because boy oh boy, the League of Women Voters formed. So anyway, so Robin Wansley in Ward 2, let's go.
Absolutely, we need to
Anyway,
absolutely strong endorsement. I need to support Robin, and there are some contenders there. So I don't
yeah,
know
Shelley is, I mean, like a lot of these candidates, including mine, are the only way I could see people supporting them if they're just like all in on this like conservative Democrat,
Right.
like centrist, moderate worldview, and that the critique of me is that I won't listen to people with opposing viewpoints. I'm a bridge
Sure.
burner and bomb thrower and whatever, and that those people don't know me. I
Right.
mean, I won't listen to bigotry. I won't listen to hatred. I mean, I have no,
Right.
and I will take it on in real time, but I will try to understand where people are coming from,
Right.
and that's the only way you can move people. I wouldn't have the success I've had as an organizer and like organizing workers, like
Right.
in rural areas and every area of this, nation, like you got to move people by meeting them where they're at, and I've done that successfully. Anyway, so the Uptown Mall um, had everything kind of got moved up timeline wise because Met Council was going to be doing some underground infrastructure improvements, and so that meant they're like, well, we got to put it back in some way, shape, or form. And the incumbent Billy was for something more in line with what the Community Advisory Committee was advocating for, which was more green space. I think it would have eliminated like 12 parking spots. And it's also downhill. So it all
Mhm.
goes right into a tributary between Bidé-Makaska and so-called Lake of the Isles. So it would have been really nice, and it would have been effectively a free park. Because Met Council, is required when they do this underground infrastructure to put things back in a way that works for the community. So Billy totally reversed course in just 2 weeks' time. The park board meets biweekly. So just put it back the same way. And what that was about is a former DFL party chair, Mike Erlandson, who lives just just north of the Uptown Mall, and others started shrieking as loud as they could, Elizabeth Schaefer, because so north of the Uptown Mall is beautiful if you consider, massive houses that
Right.
cost millions of dollars beautiful. But I mean, they are impressive
Right.
structures like the modern pyramids of our time or
And sit
something.
mostly empty a lot of the time. Seems like.
Yeah, so these huge homes with massive wealth who do not want anyone parking anywhere near their house. That's what
Right.
that was about. But, in my opinion, Billy Menz and others got perhaps duped, or that's just really who they are. And I think we're
Right.
seeing more of really who they are showing forward as time progresses, especially with this new mayoral Jacob Fry slate yesterday. But
Right.
anyway, they said, no, just put it back the same way it is, and they made it about parking, which we have to move away from parking being such a fixation.
Right.
Real cities, you don't park exactly, 2 steps walk away from where you're
Right.
planning to get. We'll figure out the moving people that perhaps have limited mobility. We can figure that out.
Right.
But anyway, it really was about that, which is also absurd because the parking is technically not allowed to be overnight parking, but people do. And the
Sure.
message was like, oh, this is about people getting to work. And it's like, well, how about we get jobs for people that are a little closer to their house? So they don't have to drive, or public transit, and
Exactly.
um, maybe don't have to work so much. Let's whatever. But we really know what that was about, and what whatever you, I mean, I think it was a real miss on having, more robust green space and a more climate resilient and vehicle miles traveled reduction and you name it. But the biggest, whoever, whatever side people
Right.
might be on in terms of like what the end result is, what is absolutely absurd and unacceptable is that you intentionally recruit people to be on this CAC and then you just ignore them.
Right.
Um, and my understanding, I mean, I haven't heard it directly, but like, there's a person that's black, there's a person that's trans, there's renters that have said, why would I ever participate in something like this again?
Right. Exactly.
You asked me to participate, I did, and then you just ignored me. So that's a real miss, and around the same time, it was these elimination of the funding for these three youth programming positions in favor of unspecified pavement. And we know where
Right.
that's going to go. Elizabeth, it's probably going to go right on that path around Lake of the Isles. So Elizabeth Schaefer can brag to her wealthy friends. So I mean, I'm going to call that stuff out in real time. I'm going to call it out in the media. I'm going to try to organize my fellow park board commissioners and definitely my community when this stuff is happening. It's about, you know, um, what decisions are being made by who and for who and what, and having that power analysis, which I really feel grounded in and good about. So, yeah.
Yeah, personally, I think anything, any vacant lot or any other piece of land that the park board has that isn't being like, used for something specific should just be like put back to tall grass prairie, native plants as quickly as possible. I mean, just in my area, just in my yard, and then my neighbor across the street did a lot more native plants, and then another neighbor next to them did a lot more native plants. And the pollinators I was getting on like the goldenrod and stuff this year was just like out of this world. Like the number of pollinators I was seeing in my yard on that goldenrod was just amazing. And so, if we can focus, if we can frame that as, bringing back pollinators and supporting the bees and all the stuff that like we have to do at a massive level, because we're losing a lot of pollinators. It's really scary. It should be really scary to a lot of people, more than it is, because we really need to reverse that that trend. And I think we have a great opportunity to do it here in Minneapolis. And until there's some other big plan, I think, if there's a spot of just like, dirt and grass and rocks or whatever, let's get planting some plants in there until there's some other, plan or some other, landscape or whatever. Like, I don't know. It's crazy to me that there's so much ground that people just want to leave as like grass or even dirt or just cement, like you said. And it's like, it's really unfortunate, and I don't think that's what the majority of people want.
No.
And I think you're clear on that. So
Yeah, well, yeah, and then what can we do? The park for people that don't know, I'm learning a lot too. That's the other thing is
yeah.
fascinating. What I am learning, and I'm loving it, and I'm loving meeting as many people as I am. Um, but I mean, so the park board is responsible for all the, sometimes called street trees, so like boulevard
Yeah, sure.
trees, and the boulevard, to be clear, is for the vast majority of the city is the area between the sidewalk and the curb.
Mm.
And yeah, the park board is responsible for the trees, but the homeowner is responsible for the boulevard maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
And for years, it really felt like it was discouraged to do any sort of like rain garden type thing in the boulevard. But that just, in terms of what specifically has happened, I'm honestly not fully
Right.
up to speed. But I know folks that wanted to do like rain gardens in their boulevard were having issues like a decade ago, and it seems like that's cleared up. And I certainly have, a very pollinator friendly boulevard out front.
Yeah.
But yeah, what can we do to really encourage that in the boulevards and um, trees that are going to make sense short and long term? I mean, how a forest
Right.
regenerates is you'll see like aspen and birch and poplar come in first, and then they die off quickly, and you have to have that understory, and you see, depending on where you are, your conifers or your cedars or different things come up that are more durable and are going to be around for 100
Right.
200 years. I think we got to be looking at our boulevards like that too.
Yep.
and that's a real opportunity to, I think, find some funds. And um, there's some passionate folks that have looked at like edible boulevards now. I mean, as a person that just showed a puppy at the beginning of this, I don't necessarily want puppy pee
No, sure, yeah, no, I get it.
food, but you
Or,
can
or
wash it.
cars. I mean, the cars are right there too. That's
Yeah,
the other thing. So
yeah, and
you just got to be
salt and
careful.
all
But
that.
well,
But
we have Adam's Triangle by us, which is like a food forest on a little triangle that I
yeah,
think a committed group of people got together and made that happen. And so that's pretty impressive. And I didn't think there was fruit growing there yet, but according to one of my neighbors, he picked some apples there and stuff this year. So I should
yeah,
make sure to get. It's just like 2 blocks from my house. I should make sure to get over there next year and see what fruit's starting to come out. But yeah, that's the kind of stuff we need everywhere. If there's a
yeah. I planted a cherry tree at this Times, lower
nice,
northeast house here, and I planted a cherry tree a few years back, and by the third year, it was really producing a ton of cherries. Now I can't even keep up, so come over for cherries in the spring, or well, in June of next year,
nice,
I guess.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, I mean, it's not, such a small little front yard that
right,
it's very similar to a boulevard type space,
right,
and it's thriving.
yeah,
And I'm sure there's enough, stuff going on with that tree itself to not be too worried about. The cherries taste great, I'll tell you that much. And
yeah. All right. Well, I
um,
know where I'll be showing up next June.
yeah, yeah. Masabi Red, you can buy it at Mother Earth Gardens.
Yeah, I got. Yeah, we have I have a Nanking cherry in my yard, but it never had any cherries because I think it needs another one. But just this year, I planted another one, like line of sight with that one. So maybe in the not too distant future, I'll get some cherries on there too. We'll
Well,
see.
we could
We
do a
can
clipping off
mix
this
and
one and put
match.
it in some rooting hormone too, if you want.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate your time, Dan, and I'm really excited to get you in there and get you doing all this stuff that I have a lot of faith that you'll be able to accomplish.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. I appreciate you taking the time. It worked out early enough on a Saturday before the
Yeah,
day gets too busy.
coming right up. So, well, yeah, good luck with all your door knocking and everything, and take care and have a good rest of your day.
You too, Nick.
And that's our special interview. Thanks for listening. Solidarity.
This has been a Socialist News and Views special interview.